progressive politicians and politically correct assholes. PC Radio. Worldwide at thepcradioshow.com.
And also broadcasting live on iHeartRadio every single Monday through Friday. All weekdays, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. People are so addicted to this thing. I don't know why. Yeah, good. Over 1 million listeners on iHeartRadio. Also, you can find us anywhere that social media exists. If you can still log into your account, I mean, we're post-October 1's community standards release. So if you haven't been completely banned for being pro-Trump or saying something anti-progressive, you can find us on Facebook, the Patriotically Correct Radio Show page. We're on Twitter at Correct Radio. I'm on Twitter at Real Stu Peters. Richard at Real Richard J. We're all over the place. We're on Spotify. We're on iTunes. We're on the Apple Podcasts. We've got all kinds of different stuff going on.
We're out here.
We're out here, man. So if you want to find us, there's no question you can definitely do that. The president, POTUS, has the Rona. I don't care. Not a big deal. You know why I don't care? Because 99.97% of people live through there. They were saying how I was on the way home from work last night, and they were talking about how, he's in the high-risk group, because he's over 70. This guy's over 70 is a lot different than most guys over 70. He's this is the up at 3 o'clock in the morning working over 70. This is the never had a drop to drink in my life over 70. This is the I sleep next to a 50-year-old Melania Trump over 70. So I think that the president is going to do just fine. And I think that it's going to be funny because he's going to come out and he's going to say something like, I had the worst case of Rona that doctors have ever seen. It was absolutely the greatest, most infectious corona that anybody has ever had. Greg, you got to stop making all that noise on your phone. Hold on a minute, dude. It's the worst case. I beat it better than anybody's ever beat the Rona. I did it first. I did it best. I did it the fastest. It was huge. It was absolutely huge. I beat it. Let's just go ahead and get to Greg because we already, it's very obvious that he's on the phone. He does a lot of rumbling around on this phone. I'm like, hey, just be quiet for a second until it's time for you to be on.
I had a sneeze. I apologize. I wanted to cover the microphone before I did it. You mentioned the Rona, and I had a sneeze. I apologize.
Gregory Scasny is on with us today. Over 20 years of IT and information security experience. He holds a bachelor's degree. He's an alum of Purdue University, electrical engineering. My grandparents went to Purdue, and they were very proud to be Boilermakers. I'm sure you are as well. But the cool thing is, cybersecurity, man, he implements security and information management systems and event management systems. He designed and implemented incident response programs and designed and implemented SOC operations. He's a seasoned speaker and educator. He provides training, keynote presentations, and guest lectures for organizations like NASA. Great, because if you know somebody, I'd like to get out of here. 2020 can officially suck my seeds. Commercial for classified systems, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the Florida Gulf Coast University, Hodges University, the city of Cape Coral, Florida. He's a frequent guest on media such as ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, and many others, the Florida Bar Association, etc. The list goes on and on. I could spend the first whole segment just reading your bio if you want me to. But Greg Scasny, welcome to PC Radio.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
And the way that we met, just so that everybody knows, is we oftentimes go to Fort Myers Beach. We're there 3 to 4 times a year. And there's if you follow me on Facebook or if we're friends on Facebook, Richard, the boys have been on that radio show down there, yes. Beach Talk Radio with Kim and Ed Ryan, and great people. And so I was talking to Ed Ryan and saying, hey, I'd like to have you on the show because I want to talk to you about Florida being open and DeSantis making his decisions down there and stuff like that. And he goes, no, you don't want to talk to me. You want to talk to Greg Scasny. So, Greg, you're pretty experienced in strategery, it sounds like. And first, let's start with this. Florida, it's open. How's that going?
Thank God, right? I couldn't be happier for the governor we had. Ron's a proven leader. Him making the decision to open Florida was the right decision. Personally, I think he waited too long, but Florida's open for business. It was a great move on his part. The businesses down here, especially on the beach, the businesses on the restaurants and stuff on the beach, they survive on tourist dollars, right? Rona shut down them at peak season, March, spring break time. They're hurting. They can't survive on 50% capacity. So for him just to say, hey, listen, I'm going to follow the data, which most people don't do. I'm going to look at our hospitalizations. I'm looking at the death rates. Cases are going to happen. We know that. There's a whole thing going on with how they count cases. We all know that.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at the data that's empirical. I'm going to look at the data that makes a difference, and I'm going to make decisions for Florida based on that data. And that's exactly what he did. It's what everybody else needs to do. Kudos to Ron for that. We're very happy. I think he needs to go further, though.
Well, we've had lots of people on here that go, man, you guys sound a whole lot different than everybody else that want to operate under what the data says.
Yeah.
And it is refreshing to hear that somebody, especially a politician like a governor, is saying, well, it makes sense just to look at the numbers and operate off of that. It's quite a concept that I apparently not a whole lot of people in politics know how to do. It's like a super foreign idea to look at the numbers and make decisions on that.
Well, and the progressive leaders and the people like Timmy the Tyrant here, Governor Walz in Minnesota, and then over in Michigan and California, the places that are operating under shutdowns and lockdowns and only getting more and more aggressive with that, they will also tell you that they're running off the numbers. But their numbers are the numbers that come from places like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where, Richard, if you die there, you don't even have to have ever been tested for coronavirus, and you can be ruled a COVID death, because all it takes is a physician to say, well, he had a little temperature, or yeah, he sounded hoarse when he was talking to me. He exhibited the symptoms of COVID-19, and they make you a COVID death. It's absolutely sick, Greg.
And they've been doing that all over the country. There's many places, Chicago or Illinois, that people have come out and said, when we're counting COVID deaths, it's someone with COVID, someone that died with COVID, right? And that's not a secret. So how do you, when you control the data and you control the numbers, and hospitals are getting paid for people with COVID, there's financial, I'm not saying hospitals are crooked, but they get paid,
but they are.
Lots of money for someone who has COVID or dies of COVID. There's a financial gain for them to have that. How do you trust the numbers, right? So it makes it very difficult, but you got to look at, you can't hide it for so long, where you can only hide in the numbers. The people on the left, the very progressives, are always going to play statistical games with numbers to further their cause, right? Yeah. They're going to cherry pick data. They're going to look at things and say, oh, we need the 15 days to slow the curve, and now we need more power. We want to shut things down, and now, people are dying, so we got to stay shut down. And then, it's not about dying. It's about, now we have more people in the hospital. Then the hospitalizations go down. Well, now it's about cases, right? And cases don't tell you, I'm going to swear, so I'm going to try not to. Cases don't tell you a damn thing about how the virus is going through the population, or what the infectability of those people that have tested positive are, right? So you get a PCR test that says it's a binary thing. You either have COVID RNA in your system or you don't.
Right.
It doesn't tell you how much viral load you have. It doesn't tell you if you're infectious or not. It doesn't even tell you if you're sick. So great, you're going to use these case numbers to further implement restrictions on your freedom. And the worst part about it, of all things that I can't believe, is people on the left, and it's unfortunate it's on the left, are dying to be controlled. They will get online and say, shut it down. Still to this day, shut it down. Keep schools closed. Don't let kids go to school. Keep the bars closed. Don't go get a haircut. They're dying to be controlled by the government. I don't understand. Do these people not study history at all? I don't understand that, how we can have Americans today. How can you call yourself an American and beg for the government to put their boot on your throat? How the hell does that work? It doesn't make any sense to me, but that's what they're doing. And I think it really comes down to is they just all hate the orange man. They want to see him gone, and they'll do whatever it takes. I mean, the vitriol today on social media is disgusting.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
The things that they're saying, it is unbelievable. I mean, I don't like Joe Biden at all. I don't wish death or sickness on anybody that I dislike, but it's sickening. It's just literally the best word I can use for it.
Yeah.
You brought up a good point, though, that I think we were getting to yesterday, but we didn't quite get there, was how much money the hospitals are getting paid when they report a COVID death. And, maybe it's the conspiracy theorist in me, But it would seem to me that some of these smaller hospitals around our country greatly benefit from having 100 cases of corona in a month, or and whatever the given time period is for which the government will pay them for treating these folks. I guess I would be really interested to know if I go to my local hospital and I complain of symptoms that may come into line with COVID-19, and they hospitalize me for 7 days while I'm treated and get me good enough to go home. How much money is the government giving that hospital for my treatment? Would be an interesting fact to find out. I'll have to do some research.
I heard on again. The average, I think they get compensated per COVID case was around $38,000. Last I checked, and I haven't checked in a while, but
Really?
I had mentioned this before, yeah. And that was one thing that really got my attention. This is back in March when Mike Pence and I'm from Indiana. I'm a Hoosier. Pence was the governor, but I've been in Florida for many years. But Pence was governor of Indiana. I have a lot of respect for him. But when he stood up there and talked about the 15 days to flatten the curve and all that kind of stuff, and then went on to say no American is going to be saddled with any cost out of pocket for COVID, my jaw dropped, and it was like, I mean, as much as I understand where he was coming from with that, man, again, you read what I do for a living. I mean, we track cyber criminals, we track people who do fraud for a living. The red lights just started going off in my head. Is like, this is not going to end well, right?
Yeah.
When you put that kind of money, when you say the federal government is going to cover the cost for anybody who has this disease, I mean, just it gave me goose pimples. Like something. This is not going to end.
Because
end well.
it really gives people the incentive to. Yeah, the fingers are going.
Yeah,
it really gives people the incentives to be assholes, right? I mean, these people, especially medical professionals, who are sworn to a code of ethics, that are sworn to, whatever to the code of being a doctor. Now, all of a sudden, these facilities are getting $38,000, give or take, however much money, to treat people with this virus, and no American is going to have any costs associated. Well, I'm sorry, that's a lot of money, and people will do whatever they can do to get. We've all seen what money does to people. Absolutely,
and realize that hospitals are run by business people. I mean, they may be doctors, but they're business people, right? There's a lot of hospital administrators that aren't physicians, but they're run. They're run by business people. That's where their heads at, right? It's very unfortunate. If medical billing fraud happens all the time, right? Mm-hmm. It does. It gets investigated. People get prosecuted for it. So it's not like it doesn't happen. So
I'm going to go out on a limb and say there's treachery afoot.
Oh boy, afoot. Let's talk about. I got two things that I want to talk about. The first thing I want to do is touch on this. You mentioned that liberal progressives, we're talking citizens, everyday people, the mask wearers, the guy that is jogging by himself on the beach with nobody else around, but he's masked up for safety. The people that are riding in the car with each other, husband and wife, that spend all of their time with each other. You better mask up because boy, that fresh air is dangerous out there. You don't want to catch any of that. Are these people just unable to think for themselves? I mean, honestly, listen, is it really a political statement to wear the mask, or are they just that stupid? I mean, we have people walking around here. Listen, look at the data. Okay, let's just say this. Let's say that you're not a data kind of person. Okay, you don't want to look at the data. Well, what about the algorithms that are right before your face? Okay, so I go into the restaurant. I go into Pete's Timeout. We're going to use Pete's Timeout because that's where Ed Ryan broadcasts from. Beach Talk Radio. By the way, every Saturday morning, look him up on Facebook. Great program, very informative. Love Beach Talk Radio. Here's my shameless plug. Pete's Timeout. Go there, eat there. Great breakfast. Good. Awesome great service. Okay, there it is. So let's say that I go. Pete's Timeout doesn't have any indoor seating. Well, I guess they do have a little bit, do they? Yeah,
they do.
Yeah,
they do.
They do have indoor
yes,
seating.
Bar.
Okay. Yep, they do. You're right about that. So let's say I go to Pete's Timeout. It's raining outside, so I'm going to go inside. Okay, and I go. Hey. before the mandate was lifted by the governor, by the brave and courageous governor down there. So I got to go and I got to throw my mask on, right? And now I go sit down. Once I'm sitting, I can take my mask off. Okay, but now if I have to get up and take a piss, I got to put my mask back on. It's just so goofy, and there's no scientific data that suggests that these masks work at all. But yeah, we got to wear them all over the place. I mean, come on. It's right in front of your damn face. This whole thing is a sham. It's a hoax. It's a lie. It's the scamdemic. It's the plandemic. Wake up. Take your masks off and live. Greg, in your opinion, is it a political statement or are they just effing stupid?
It's both. It is, one, a political statement. It is definitely, and two, they are stupid. So I literally got into an argument with a reporter that I knew. I won't mention his name, but he's very progressive, very left, saying all the scientific professionals say mask works. I said, for every study you tell me that shows a mask work, one, I can poke holes in it because all they're doing is saying that when you sneeze, it keeps these big droplets from you. So I don't know about him or anybody else on the left, but when I was young, if I didn't cover my mouth when I sneezed or coughed, my dad would smack the shit out of me. So I always cover my mouth when I sneeze or cough. Same thing as what the mask is doing, right? So anything else, how it's going on is just dumb. And then I said, well, great. I'll give you that. Let's just, for the sake of argument, say that masks work 100%. That they are absolutely effective. That if you wear a mask, you will not only not spread COVID, you won't get COVID. So that's fine. Tell me where the common sense is in the mask mandates, because they're all the same. Where's the common sense? Where's the critical thinking that says I can walk into a restaurant with the mask on? As soon as I sit down, I can take the damn thing off, breathe all over the place, laugh, drink, be merry, as long as I want to sit there.
Yep.
And then when I go take a piss, put it back on, then get back and take it back off, and put it back on when I walk out. Tell me where the critical thinking that it makes any sense whatsoever.
There's absolutely
that's what should be the law.
None. Zero.
And silence.
Critical
silence.
thinking is
it's like when you ask someone why they're voting for Biden, but don't use Trump as an example. Silence, right? It's the same thing. It has become just total politicized baloney. And we even still have a mask mandate on the beach, but no one abides by it because our governor said you can't fine for it. So
right.
It's been awesome.
You guys are missing one key point to this whole mask thing and taking a piss. You need to understand that the guy that may or may not be next to you, if he has coronavirus, the particles of his piss hitting the back of the urinal will circulate and get into your nose if you don't have a mask on, and then everyone is screwed.
Stop it. And by the way, was that what you were laughing about when I was going off on my tangent? You just had this little perverse thought? I mean, I saw you hysterically laughing over there. Was there something going on? Did I say something? Was I spitting while I was talking? Do I have a booger in my nose? What's going on here?
No, you don't have a booger, but I am amused sometimes when you get super excited.
Yeah.
And you talk so fast that there's nobody in America that can understand what you're saying, but God dang it, you're gonna say it.
Greg, you and I talked obviously before when we were arranging this interview, and you brought up something that I really hadn't thought of. You came from an angle that you were discussing the strategery here and the strategy by DeSantis from opening the state. I was really intrigued by that. Talk a little bit about the political strategy you think was in place when Ron decided to open Florida back up.
Sure. So, and one of the things I really thought of that I talked about yesterday, first thing, and I even mentioned this to Ed Ryan and those guys when it happened, was, Florida's a swing state. The Hanging Chads, we have two big counties that are very left-leaning. Most of other Florida is very red, but we're a swing state. So I think by Ron he's the first big state to say, we're opening up. We're here for business. Come here. Come to Florida. We're here. I think that, people are pissed, right? They want to go to work. They want to open their businesses. They want to run their restaurants. They want to get their haircut. They want to go spend money. They have this pent-up demand. And I think by Ron opening the state, he's going to enable people to say, we want more of that. We want more of the freedom to operate the way we want to operate. I want to vote Republican, right? My vote is going to be for the guy who's definitely going to help me open my business, especially if you look on the Miami-Dade County side where, they've been shut down under severe restrictions for a very long time. Again, mostly left-leaning, but I think those people have had enough. And I think that by Ron saying, hey, we're going to open up, we're ready to go, that he's going to pull a lot of those swing voters and even some left voters over to the Republican side. I think that was really, again, probably not. I don't know if it was 100% the strategy he wanted to do, but I guarantee that had to be in his thought process.
Might not be the sole reason why he did it, but definitely a contributing factor. Politics are always going to be a contributing factor. And then the other thing that you were talking about yesterday was, you were saying this is look at the influx of people that are going to run to Florida and open their businesses there, start their businesses there, and grow Florida's economy. So that strategy actually has a lot to do with Ron DeSantis trying to decide that he's going to do better for his state's economy, looking out for Florida first, which I admire him for that. You were also talking
I do too. I think that was awesome.
You were also talking about
that made me super proud.
Legislation that is either on the governor's desk or maybe going through the legislature or has already been signed by executive order. You weren't sure yesterday when we talked. I don't know if you did any more research on it. I personally didn't have time to do it. But there's discussion about making blocking traffic or harassing people when they're out into turning that into a felony. Explain that.
Yeah, so what he did even a few days prior to opening up the state is, and I don't know what he called it.
Well, we called it the F around.
I call it the F around and find out, right,
yeah.
Bill? But it's not an executive order. It's going to go through the legislature. And if voted out, will become Florida law. But basically, it makes if you're involved in a violent protest, and I don't want to call it protest. If you're involved in a violent riot, that's a felony. If you block the road to keep someone from legally traveling down the road, that's a felony. And if you have to defend yourself with your vehicle, you're not going to be charged for that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
If you're out and you're like that, what happened in St. Pete, and I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back for Mr. DeSantis was there's video, it was on Fox News, it was on CNN, of protesters, rioters, whatever you want to call them, in St. Petersburg. There's outdoor diners, and they come and were harassing and sat down at the table, just being disrespectful little shits. It was all over a couple. They always pick on the weak, right? They never sit down at the young guys or big guys table. They pick on the weak people. But he said if that's going to be you're going to jail, and you're going to jail immediately, and you're going to be charged with a felony. So I think that kind of stuff, the protest, people are sick of it. I think that the majority of America is sick of seeing the lawlessness, the disrespect for other human beings, the burning of cities. I don't know. I don't understand the strategy from the left on not disavowing that, but kudos to Governor DeSantis for standing up and saying, "Listen, that shouldn't even happen in my state. If it happens here, we're gonna prosecute you. We're gonna put you in jail. We're not gonna tolerate the disrespect to the police department. We're not gonna tolerate disrespect in violent actions against our citizens and our police departments." And I hope other states follow suit. But I think Ron swung for the fences twice last month and hit home runs every time.
Well, it's these Antifa. Oh, I almost said the F word. These Antifa people. You had mentioned that they prey on the weak, and so one of my opinions about all this is that it's really a shame that we have and I don't want to say vast majority, but we have a very large number of people in our country that are sheep, so to speak, and that these people can find to prey on. I really think that if we could find a way to get people, especially law-abiding citizens in our society, to stand up. And I saw that video of the guy that went and sat down, and then the whole crowd came over and surrounded their table, and the guy's wife was ready to slap the shit out of the dude that sat at their table.
Yeah.
And the husband is like, no, just leave it be. And I get both sides of it. I'd want to slap him too. But I think that you're right. These guys prey on the weak, and when somebody in a large number stands up and whoops the shit out of these folks, like some folks are doing around the country, you see, there's the USA versus Antifa SmackDown videos going around on Facebook. Which will probably be
I smile every time I watch that.
Yeah,
I love it.
We got to pay some bills here. I'm up against a hard break. Greg Scasny, I want to have you back again. Can you be kind of like my Fort Myers Beach, Florida check-in guy from here on out on PC Radio? I mean, I could talk to you for hours.
Anytime. Listen, I love you guys. Your show's awesome. I'll come on anytime you want. I'm happy to come on anytime.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Greg Scasny,
brother.
And you can check him out online or anywhere else. I think he's got some stuff going on Facebook, and I'll put his links to his social media on our Facebook page if he'll allow me to. I'll ask him about that. In the second half, Joe the Cop. It's Force Matrix Fridays.
Yeah, Joe the Cop.
Talk to him soon. More PC Radio straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. My name is Stu. That's Rich. We'll see you in a minute.
We will force votes. We will not stop. Any Republican senator is part of the cover-up. What the
Impeachment. Impeachment.
This is madness!
The PC Radio Show with Stu and Rich. Back in a minute.
Hey, it's Stu Peters for Johnson Jewelers, located in Woodbury, Minnesota, but more importantly, located online worldwide at johnsonjewelers.com. Why is that important to you? Well, because if you have been left behind or you have discovered a family heirloom or something that's important to you, maybe it's grandma's birthstone, or maybe it's a pendant or a family crest, maybe it's grandpa's ring, but it doesn't quite fit you, or maybe it needs to be restored, or you see something completely different in mind. Why shove that thing in a safety deposit box? Why put it aside or put it in a shadow box or just break it out every once in a while to show the grandkids? Instead, you could wear that with a custom piece of jewelry designed for you, specifically by johnsonjewelers.com. A quick visit to the website, a couple of emails exchanged, and maybe a few phone calls, and you will have that custom piece of jewelry that means something for you. Visit them online, worldwide, johnsonjewelers.com, johnsonjewelers.com. That's johnsonjewelers.com.
Prop 25 ends our right to put up bail for anyone, even though they may have been racially profiled. Prop 25 replaces bail with computer algorithms. Academic studies show that these algorithms are biased. Some call them black boxes. And Prop 25's new bureaucracy delays justice for innocent people stuck in jail. The NAACP asks you to vote no on Proposition 25.
Hey, it's Stu Peters and Richard Leonard for Adjust Today Chiropractic. Now, I want you to take a look at this. This is the website for Adjust Today Chiropractic, which obviously is at adjusttodaychiropractic.com. Dr. Dustin Dukart says you're in good hands. He believes everyone has a chance to experience the benefits of chiropractic care. He'd love to find out how to skillfully take care of you and your spine, and that can be done even on Saturdays. He makes himself available on Saturdays. And Richard, you know how important it is to be properly aligned.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's no secret that proper alignment is good for you, not only in just an everyday health aspect, but also, I mean, it can help things that you don't even know that it helps. Now, Dr. Dustin Dukart does specialize in like athletic pain and things like that, but also, I mean, chiropractic care can help with allergies, migraines, all kinds of stuff. Visit him today, adjusttodaychiropractic.com, adjusttodaychiropractic.com. That's adjusttodaychiropractic.com.
With a domestic population of 350 million and 7.8 billion worldwide, we thank the 12 of you that listen to this garbage.
It's garbage, and I'll tell you why.
The Patriotically Correct Radio Show.
Eat me.
With Stu and Rich. Worldwide at thepcradioshow.com.
It's pretty naughty language for our voice guy to be using. It's Force Matrix Friday. Let me see if I can get my guys up here. Hold on a second. Where's my people at? There they are. They're right behind me. They're standing by in an armament of protection for me. Broadcasting live from Minneapolis, Minnesota. My name is Stu Peters. That's Richard Leonard. Welcome to Patriotically Correct Radio every single weekday, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern, everywhere that you can find low-budget afternoon radio programming, you're going to find us. If you're new to the program, you may not be aware of Force Matrix Fridays. We host a currently working police officer in America. He is a 23-year journeyman patrol officer. We protect his anonymity on this show because, as we all know, currently working police officers don't have that First Amendment right to speak out. But, you know, Joe, he likes to tell the truth, and we are relentless seekers of the truth here on PC Radio. So if you like the truth, you'll like this show. Stick around. Joe the Cop, welcome to this Force Matrix Friday on this Friday afternoon. How are you, sir?
I'm happy to be joining you on this chilly Friday afternoon, Stu.
It's chilly, huh? Okay, well, you don't hate now. Don't get too specific about where you're geographically located. We don't want you being tracked down by some admin, some weak-ass administrator and get a talking to or a letter in your file or something for talking to us.
He must be in northern Saskatchewan.
Yes, that's where he is.
I don't have any problems with
British
my boss.
Columbia. He's fending off the 200,000 Chinese troops that... Are they here? Where are they?
Shit.
Where are they? All right. I don't know. It's a pretty dangerous situation. Joe, there was a recent incident in let's see, where is this here? Salt Lake City, Utah. Salt Lake City police released body cam video of an officer-involved shooting of an autistic teenager on September 4th after he told pursuing officers that he had a gun. They ended up shooting him. Take us through the situation, Joe.
Well, Stu, initially, when the story broke, it was the mother saying, I called them because I couldn't handle him. He was having an episode, and why did they have to shoot him? I don't understand why they couldn't have done something different. Now, my first thought to that is all mothers in that situation are going to say something in the heat of the moment, in their grief, in their distress and everything. But then my second thought was, why did you call the police in the first place?
Yeah.
And we saw a lot of people, including some police officers, basically were ready to hang these officers out to dry. And as I always say, wait for the video footage. This is why I have a near 100% prediction rate with these cases, because I always wait for the video footage and I always wait for all the information to come out. And as we have seen with the body camera footage, if you're able to play it here, that this officer really had no choice at the point that he was pursuing a young man who said he had a gun, whose mother said he had a gun, wasn't sure if it was a real gun or a BB gun. But at the point in the dark, when he's non-compliant, and the officer says, stop right there, and he says, I have a gun, and he makes any sort of movement after that, any sort of furtive or overt movement, other than to put his hands in the air in the universal act, in the universal sign of surrender, he's going to get shot. And that's exactly what happened here. So unless the body camera footage shows an entirely different scenario where this kid was actually trying to surrender, okay, the officer's going to be justified. It's a sad situation because the kid has autism. But I can tell you from 23 years experience that autism does not always equate to non-dangerous or weak.
Yeah, I know plenty of people that are on the spectrum and they lead just fabulous lives. But, you know, I think that if I remember right, years and years ago, there was a similar situation where a police officer shot some kid who was, you know, I think they were egging a house or some stupid shit like that, ran from the cops, had this toy gun, and then got shot by the cops. And then it sparked this big deal with these toy gun makers that they need to have orange tips and they need to be identifiable as not a real gun. And then for some reason, all that stuff went out the window. Because I'll tell you what, you know, when Stu and I are out on the street, if we're running around North Minneapolis and the guy we're looking for is carrying a BB gun, a plastic gun, a rubber gun, a real gun, it doesn't matter to me. If it's dark out and that thing comes out to be pointed at us, well, he's going to get dropped. You know, I mean, I am not going to wait for him to tell me and show me that it's a fake gun before I take that chance of me or my partner not going home. That's just needs to be understood, I think.
No, listen, even an orange tip is not going to matter to me under certain circumstances, okay? Because we got to look at the context. We have to look at the totality of circumstances. Anyone can paint the tip of a gun orange. In fact, there have been cases where criminals have done this. Mm-hmm. But let's just look at this situation here in Salt Lake City with the 13-year-old juvenile, Cameron Linden, okay? He did not have a gun on him at all. But based on the totality of the circumstances, based on what the mother told the officers, the mother actually told the officers that he had been involved in a shootout, this 13-year-old kid, in a shootout with Nevada authorities the previous month. Or, I'm sorry, maybe it was the previous year. But had told them that he had been involved. Now, why a 13-year-old kid who was allegedly involved in a shootout with law enforcement is walking around free and is not locked away in a hospital, a 13-year-old autistic kid, I can't begin to guess. But what the mother did was she set the stage for the officer. She set the totality of the circumstances. So if these officers walked into this situation looking to confront the kid based on what the information the mother was giving them, okay, if they walked into this situation prepared for deadly force they would normally be prepared for, more than they would normally be prepared for when going against a 13-year-old autistic kid with an episode. It's because of the information the mother gave them. Now, if you watch the body camera footage, the mother says she's only calling the police because she needs to get them to transport him to the hospital.
Because otherwise her insurance wouldn't cover his hospitalization. Yeah, I was just actually reading that as you were talking about that. And, it makes sense why she called in that way. Her story, that's believable to me.
No, I get that. That makes sense to me too. But, and Stu, listen, I don't have kids, let alone kids on an autistic spectrum. So far be it for me to judge the frustration and the stress level of a parent that has to deal with this. But in listening to the body camera footage, watching the body camera footage and listening to it, this seems to be a mother who is more concerned with the financial issues at this time. And she calls the police to fix their problem, to fix her problem with the kid who is having an episode. And then when the police come and react to exactly what they see happening in front of them, and it's lawful, their actions are going to be lawful, when they react to what they see in front of them based on what he is doing and based on the information provided to them by the mother, she now wants to call for their terminations.
In an article, the Police Tribune here at bluelivesmatter.blue, it said she was quoted saying, quote, "We need him to go to the hospital," the mother told an officer, according to body cam video. Quote, "I need him to go to a hospital. I can't get him there on my own, and I cannot do this every night." Barton told police that her son hated the police, had led police on a chase in the past, and had previously been involved in a, quote, "shootout" with the Lyon County Sheriff's Office in Nevada, according to the Salt Lake Tribune. When officers arrived, body cam video showed the mother told them that her coworker had told her that her 13-year-old boy had a fake gun the prior day. "Are you sure it's a BB gun?" the officer asked Barton in the video. "I don't know if it's a BB gun. I don't know if it's a pellet gun. I don't know if it's a prop weapon because my other son," she explained. Let's see here. What does it say here? It says, "But you don't know if it's a real gun either," the officer asked in the video. "I don't believe it's a real gun. I don't believe it's a real gun," Barton said. Again, this doesn't take away the fact that it could be a real gun. It also doesn't take away the fact that in the dark or under any circumstances, light, dark, or whatever, if you point something at me or Richard when we're working that looks like a gun, you're going to take a dirt nap. I'm going to put you down. And it's just... It's a really sad and unfortunate situation, Joe, but the fact of the matter is you're right. You predict these things correctly all of the time, but this seems to be pretty cut and dry.
Right. It's just the whole idea that, and listen, the officer is absolutely correct when he says we cannot treat that as a toy gun. Even the fact that Cameron Linden, the 13-year-old juvenile here, who in this situation, he did not have a gun.
Yeah.
However, like I said, when a kid tells you almost immediately before, it says, "I have a gun," and he makes any sort of overt or furtive movement in the dark like that, he's going to get himself shot, and it's going to be found to be justified. It just, like I said, this now goes to the totality of the circumstances. Graham versus Connor, and I've said this before, does not say that the officer has to be right that this person has a gun, that this person is armed. It just says he has to have a reasonable belief that this person is armed under these circumstances. And under these circumstances, was the officer's belief or fear that this juvenile was armed, was that reasonable? Absolutely. Now we have a bigger issue at play here in that, well, I don't want to say bigger issue, but it's the underlying issue. Why do families call the police when they have autistic relatives, okay, sons, daughters, nephews, grandkids, having these episodes? Demand that armed police officers come into these situations when these people are armed or expressing their intent to harm somebody. Why are we surprised when we call police officers in and the situation turns violent? We shouldn't be surprised at all. You can call the police as many times as you need to, but understand in so doing, you give up control of what happens next. The officers will take over that call, and they have to protect themselves, and they have to protect the public.
you're not going to call the police and then they show up and tell them, okay, here's what needs to happen now, fellas. I need you to do this, this, and this, and make sure my son gets to the hospital safely. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, you can't give him all this information. Like, okay, listen,
Yeah.
he needs to go to the hospital. But by the way, he might have a gun. By the way, he hates the police. By the way, he also got into a shootout with the police. I have to verify that one still. Okay, but he led the police on a chase. And listen, pick him up, but don't hurt him at all. Don't touch a hair on his head. Look, it's not going to go that way, especially when the kid isn't compliant.
Right.
I have been in some tussles with teenagers with autism, and it is very difficult to restrain them even when they are not armed, because this isn't a street thug you're dealing with. This is a person who cannot control his actions. You are trying not to hurt them.
You can verify that if you want to, and you said that you hadn't had a chance to confirm whether or not he indeed was in a shootout with another department. But to me, you can verify it just for your own personal knowledge. But to me, it doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant as to whether or not it actually happened, because the mother, Barton, the mother of Lyndon Cameron, which is the corrected name, it's Lyndon Cameron, the mother, Miss Barton, who called the police, specifically told the police that he had been in a shootout. That is the information that they have to deal with at the time that they are seeking to engage him. And she called because she said that he was having a mental health crisis and an emotionally disturbed person who is autistic. I don't know if she ever said the words autistic or not. And again, that's irrelevant. Also, the fact of the matter remains, she called the police. They had information that he had a gun. The gun could be real. It could be a pellet gun. It could be a BB gun, which, by the way, any of them can kill you. And that she said she didn't know if it was a real gun or not. She didn't think so, but she didn't know. And then she said that he had been in a shootout. That's the information the police are armed with at the time. So you can independently fact check whether or not he indeed actually was involved with it. I don't know what Barton's motive to lie would be in this particular instance. So chances are he probably was involved in some kind of gun-related incident with police prior to this engagement, and it was responsible of her to tell that to the police officer. She didn't have to say that. I'm glad that she did, because although it wasn't a happy ending here, this kid, this boy, he survived these gunshot wounds, correct?
He did, and I'm glad that he did. Also, if you listen to his mother, if you look at the way she acts, and you listen to you read what else is said there, his father was killed in a shootout with Salt Lake City police previously. It sounds to me like this kid, even when you don't factor in the autism, it sounds like this kid's already behind the eight ball. So I'm glad that he's going to survive, but I think he's going to have bigger problems in life, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And you brought up another point, that just because it's a BB gun, an airsoft gun, well, you know what? That doesn't really mean anything to me either. If you are firing a BB gun at me, as we called them when I was growing up, if I get hit in the eye with that pellet, can it conceivably cause me death or serious bodily injury? Yes, it can.
Life, limb, or
so
eyesight.
am I justified in using deadly force? Yes, I am.
Yeah, you sure are, Joe. I think, and if I'm the responding officer, and not to beat a dead horse here or anything, but mom tells me, yeah, I mean, it could be real. I'm not sure. All I hear in that conversation is that it's real. That's a real gun to me. You just
hear gun.
Right. Right. And the goal is to go home to my family every day. And I am not taking the chance of that not happening just because mom thinks it might or might not be a real gun. To me, it's a real gun.
That's the only rule. Everybody goes home.
Yes.
So once you put that information to me and say, go get him, you've just given up control over this. Now, again, I don't tell families not to call the police when they have somebody on the autism spectrum or somebody with a mental health disorder having a violent reaction. Just understand that the police are not mental health experts. They are trained in only safety and enforcement. The mental health experts get on this call, Stu and Rich. They get on this call, and they can't control the people. What's the first thing they do? They pick up the phone and call us.
Yeah.
Yep.
They can't fix these people, unfortunately. Unfortunately, mental health has always been the bastard child or the stepchild okay, of the medical profession. It always seems to be given like second consideration. But these are people that cannot fix this problem in the hospitals with all their training and experience. What do you expect me to be able to do when I only have two jobs, safety and enforcement?
You know, people are going to judge the hell out of these cops for doing this stuff. And you know what really drives me nuts about this shit is that none of these reporters or none of these naysayers have the balls or the testicular fortitude to strap on a gun and a badge and a duty belt and go out and actually do this work. It's real easy for all these folks to damn these cops for what they do or did in this particular case. You know, because like you said, he's a child with a mental health condition. It wasn't a real gun. Mom was probably overly excited and stressed out and all this other stuff. Well, you know, if you have a better idea of what the hell to do, then why don't you go take the place of a cop for a while? Just like, you know, when we were overseas and we had these naysayers talking about, well, you know, they're just little IEDs. They're not that big of a deal. Just drive on the other side of the road. Eat my ass. They're huge. And the one that got me was a monster. It doesn't matter where anywhere in the universe, that thing would have got us. So
no, those are scary. Those, you know, I'm sure you'd rather deal with gunfire than that because you can't see that coming.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll shoot out all day long. Gunfight. Yep. I'm in. IEDs, I want nothing to do with it. You know, and for 2 years, I couldn't even drive on the highway next to trash in the road without the pucker factor going way up.
Of course. I mean, that's only natural. And I salute you for that. Thank you for your service. And you brought up an excellent point. You know, like, well, why don't you do it? In a case like this, I think another question that could be is, well, why did you call? I mean, I've had to ask people that over the years, too, when they haven't liked the way that I've had to respond to a family member in crisis or a violent family member. Oh, I wish that. Why did you call? Listen, you can call us as many times as you want or need to, rather. But, again, when you do not have a say in what happens from there. So you might want to think about that when you pick up the phone. This mother, I just don't like her at all. Based on her own words, she seems more concerned with financial issues than the safety of her son at that point. It almost seems to me, and again, I don't want to judge her because I don't have kids, let alone kids on the autism spectrum, but it almost seems to me like she just wants to palm him off.
Yeah.
And that, you know, we get that a lot.
You know, Joe, when we were talking off the air, you said, you know, I want to talk about this because I think that this is a very important, and I really do. I agree that this is very important because we are talking about mental health issues a lot right now. And, you know, the way that we're talking about it, though, is completely different. We're not talking about mental health issues or persons in crisis on a level that we should really be discussing it. Instead, what we're talking about is we're talking about race issues that then morph into persons in crisis or emotionally disturbed persons. Because in effect, what we're saying is we're going to defund the police. This is at least here in Minneapolis. We're going to defund the police. We're going to replace these armed, bad, racist, bigoted men, white men, and we're going to replace them with social workers who can go to these typically nonviolent calls. Okay, so typically nonviolent meaning public intoxication, domestic assaults. By the way, do your research. Domestic assaults are the number one leading incident that turns violent when police arrive. They're very emotional. And now we're talking about kids or adults that suffer with actual diagnosis like this autism kid. Okay, so you told me that, you know, this is a refreshing change because on Force Matrix Fridays, we're finally able to talk about a case that doesn't involve race. Richard, on the other hand, brought up a pretty good point, Richard, about how the media will even be able to turn this into race. And why don't you talk to us about that?
Well, I think that because this kid was a white kid, there's going to be no outrage. There's going to be absolutely no outrage. There's going to be no looting. There's going to be no burning of businesses. There's going to be no demonizing of the police on the scale that we see everywhere else in our country. I also think that, Stu, you bring up a good point. If this had happened in St. Paul, I think is they're doing this in St. Paul with the social workers, and this mother calls the police aren't going out there first. The little
van.
social worker lady with the cop who's about 4 days from retirement are going to show up, and this lady's going to try to, calm this kid down and come on, Johnny, let's get in the car, whatever his name was. And, we're going to go get some graham crackers and milk and all this other bullshit. So yeah, I mean, he's a white kid in Salt Lake City, Utah. Don't know if the cops are white, black, Asian, doesn't really matter.
Shouldn't.
It shouldn't matter. But this is a white kid with a mental health condition shot by the police, and there will be no outrage. None at all.
I have seen one riot over a white suspect being shot, and that would have been the James Boyd shooting in Albuquerque, New Mexico in 2014. There was some rioting following that. But
are we sure? Was he albino?
I'm sorry?
Was he an albino African American?
No, he was a white male. He was shot on
that's
basically
racist.
in the foothills. He was shot on a hill after brandishing knives towards the officers. The officers were brought up on charges. The jury was unable to convict them because this case was simply not there. And I believe the rioting that occurred with that was just because of the anti-police thugs in that city were upset at the Albuquerque police for shooting so many criminals. And that's exactly what James Boyd was. But that's the only riot I've ever seen over a white suspect. But I do believe, Rich, as this mass hysteria grows, sooner or later, you will see riots, protests over every police shooting, white, black, or Eskimo, whatever the suspect may be.
That's a very sad day, and I hope that day comes after your retirement date, Joe. It's like walking into a firing squad, so to speak. I'm more astounded nowadays by the fact that cops are still going to work, knowing what they're up against, knowing who's out to get them, and not knowing what call you're going to get next, what's going to pop up on your CAD or what you're going to be dispatched to, and how, there's no telling how any of these calls turn out, knowing that it could be the last call of your career because of a decision that you might have to make in a span of 3 seconds to preserve life for you or any Joe Blow that might be in the area, or even the suspect. I am honored to know people that are still going to work and still putting that badge on their chest and going out into these communities and saying, we will protect you. So good on you.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, let me just say that where I work in my state, we are not so easily fireable. They can't fire us without cause. In fact, I've seen officers in my state where they've had cause and they ended up winning their jobs back on appeal. So I have a little less stress with that. However, that doesn't change some politically motivated or social justice reject district attorney from filing charges against me and say, hey, fight it out in court. Even if you win, and most cops do win these cases, there are financial issues and, there's psychological issues that come with this. Every police officer I know that has ever shot somebody, even a career thug with the 23-page criminal history, the officers had some form of post-traumatic stress as a result of this, or some guilt. Look, we all sign up knowing we can use the gun, but when they actually commit to using it, I've not seen an officer that didn't have some lingering issues over that. And then to have a district attorney try to bring them up on charges on top of it, it's just unconscionable.
Yeah, I was going to say,
attorneys are able to get away with
just adding to
they have this protection.
What Richard said, that knowing what's out there for you, the cops that still do the job, we commend them, we thank them, we appreciate them. But the only thing out there is not just the bad guy that wants to kill you. It's your own administration that'll walk away from you. It's the district attorney that'll charge you. It's the Department of Justice that'll come after you for civil rights violations. I mean, it's the public that'll riot and be outside of your home and be canceling you and burning your house down. These are the things that officers have to think about now.
Yeah, one thing I could say with the Department of Justice is if the case is not there, they will not push it for political reasons. They've always been, they go on the evidence. But a local district attorney is just he's just a bit like he has his voting base
right.
that he has to appease. It's criminal what these DAs are able to get away with because they have these laws that currently protect them from liability for bringing people up on charges that they absolutely know, bringing police officers, I should say, up on charges that they absolutely know are not guilty, like, well, the 6 Baltimore officers. Listen, that Marilyn Mosby is an illiterate, anti-police thug. She is a reflection of her voting base. But even as stupid as she is, she knew these officers were going to be found not guilty. She still was able to bring them to trial anyway. And they, under the current laws, until these laws get changed, to give them protection, there's nothing that can be done there. You have to do something outright criminal to end up getting charged, sort of like Seth Williams, the Philadelphia district attorney did.
We're out of time.
He went to prison.
We're out of time here, Joe. We could talk to you all day, every day. And between now and next Friday on Force Matrix Fridays, I'm sure that there will be a 1,000 different instances that we can talk about next Friday. We always appreciate you being here, Joe the Cop, and we appreciate his service as well.
Thank you,
Joe. Your final words of the day, Mr. Leonard, what do you got?
Let's all go to Florida. They're open. Let's get drunk and lay on the beach.
All right. Until Monday, it's the weekend. We could head down there for the weekend. Until Monday at 4 o'clock, have a great weekend. By the way, also, we got to talk about the We the People rally that you and I are going to be at on October 25th. We'll give you more details about that on the show next week. Remember to lay low and avoid the radar. One day they're going to come for the car, and when they do, save the radio. Have a good weekend.
Off liberal propaganda like an enemy of the Clintons.
Epstein didn't kill himself.
Patriotically correct radio with Stu and Rich.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Mojo 50 Radio.